Vivian Williams has some criticism and sage advice for Prince Louis. Prince Louis just showed out like a privileged brat whose parents don't know how to make him behave in public. Vivian Williams? I couldn't agree more. You weren't expecting that, were you? Didn't I tell you to watch out for the Cambridges going on a charm offensive as soon as the Jubilee was over? Well, hold on to your seats, my dear, because this is just the beginning. You're going to see so much action from the Cambridges, and what a wonderful response today. Blanket praise for our hero Big Willy, who's been out and about on the streets of London. We'll talk about that in a moment. I just want to address a couple of questions. Mandy Mass. Meghan is attractive like thousands of other girls or women. She is dime a dozen. Having an entourage around her makes her feel special, different, above the cut. Some people wear designer labels on the outside, and some wear them on the inside. My friend's mother had the most beautiful vintage Chanel jacket, bought years and years ago. The first thing she did was cut off the buttons because it had the Chanel logo on, or the CC Coco Chanel logo on. She said, I love the jacket, I don't care about the label. That's something M would never say. Well, you could be very right, my dear. You know, we spoke about the vulgarity of new money and the ideas that they have, and a few of you mentioned the fact that Harry's old money, which was why he was never so much into the show. But as I told you the other day, he's began starting to branch out into more luxurious, very high-end designers such as Brioni. And, well, good for him. I don't blame him. I love a bit of the old cashmere and the fine knits, my dear. So I don't think they especially become him, but I will give him props for at least trying. But yes, this whole thing about logos, which has become so fashionable, it's never been something for me. Now, you know, I've started wearing this signature jacket for you. Don't worry, I won't wear it every day, but it will be a regular feature. Thank you so much for your kind comments about it. Most of you love the jacket. It's a second-hand McQueen number, as I told you before, and it's about 10 years old, I think. And when I received it, I was so excited to find that it is in exquisite condition. You wouldn't know it's been used. It's so very nice, but the previous owner did warn me that one of the buttons was loose and one was completely off, although he sent spare buttons with it. And in fact, this loose button here did boop pop apart. Maybe I've been eating a few too many pain au chocolat, but it did ease itself off very quickly, so I will be getting that mended. But yes, your question reminded me of this because there's no indication on this jacket or blazer thing that it's McQueen, apart from on the buttons, and I don't like that. And it happens to be very, very, very discreet, so it's not as if it's shouting, but it has the McQueen skeleton on the button, and I don't even like that. I don't like any indication of who a designer is on the piece. It's crazy. Can you imagine telling people decades ago, in those, what I find to be the more refined decades of taste, in the early 1900s, for example, through to mid-century, where things, I think, were generally more beautiful and more sophisticated. Can you imagine telling them that people would be walking around with designer names on their shoes, for example, or sportswear? Not even casual shoes. Now on some formal wear you get the logo and what's the idea of writing and names on clothes? It's really strange when you think about it. Now, I'm not completely joyless. There are certain logos. For example, you spoke about the Chanel logo. I do rather love a simple Chanel t-shirt with the logo on. I like their logo. And also there were certain elements of the 90s before brands became super branded, logos all over the place, Burberry, Chabs, this kind of thing. Just before that era, there was some delicious 90s vibes with logos all over the place, which I thought were rather avant-garde and rather charming and rather lovely. So it's not that I'm 100% against all of it, but I would go out of my way to avoid anything with writing on it, because there is a saying that you don't wear the crests of other family members unless you are the footman of the household, and that's how I was raised, and that's how I believe it to be with logos. So there are some exceptions. Look at the Queen's handbag. You know, she doesn't promote Lorna, who make her handbags and who have a royal warrant, but that does have a little discreet logo just to signify who it's made by. But I don't want to rain on anybody's fashion parade. I'm a great advocate of dressing up and I encourage it, whether it's out of a charity dressing up box or high couture designers. I thoroughly encourage the whole thing. It's the misplacement of it that bugs me. I mean, all she was doing was walking in and out of church and poking her head out of a car window, and she seemed to need this entire crew to doll her up. And high couture, I mean, you know, this is a humble church service, my dear. Is that really necessary? Peacocking is wonderful fun, my darling Megan. Wonderful fun. So peacock away. Peacock, peacock. Gild the lily as you will, my dear. Have a laugh. My only humble suggestion is that you spare it from St. Paul's Cathedral for Thanksgiving services and pull it out for the Met Gala. Vivian Williams has some criticism and sage advice for Prince Louis. Prince Louis just showed out like a privileged brat whose parents don't know how to make him behave in public. Vivian Williams? I couldn't agree more. You weren't expecting that, were you? Now, I've got to tell you, my dear, I can't bear little brats. There's a certain age of adorability, and there's quite a few little bairns in my family at the moment who have just passed through from what I find to be a scrumptious age of sort of between 1 and 2, and then it evolves. They suddenly become actual people, don't they? Start becoming a little bit more of a handful, I find. And I had the same sort of reaction when I was watching all of those children muck about in a perfectly natural way. And I think it's because I was raised on a diet of Mary Poppins. And I am extremely fun to be around when I'm with kids. I am the epitome of fun, but I am firm. And I find that it engenders a great deal of respect, and I don't stand for any nonsense. Well, even the best behaved children in the world with wonderful parents can play up or just be kids or be unpredictable, especially after long days. So you don't need to write a million comments defending them. We all know that they need no defence. They are kids. But what I will say is that Mike Tyndall told the press that they were on a sugar high, especially young Prince Louis. They'd been munching and guzzling a lot of sweeties backstage, and while you might think that's fair play, their children go for it. I'm afraid this is something I've witnessed in my own family members. They are hyper because they have a lot of sugar in their diet, not just with sweets, but it's hidden in many ways, shape and forms. And I've seen kids in my own family and the families of friends be told off when it comes to bedtime. And I think, I tried to keep my trap shut because no one likes anyone being lectured on their parenting skill or what they're doing. But I think, well, you fed them sugar all day and you were still feeding it to them, with milk and cookies or whatever half an hour ago, and you expect them to calm down for bed now. I realise that I sound like an old frump, my dear, but people are on too much sugar. And I was on too much sugar as a child, and I've told you before, it's one of my vices. I still can't resist dunking an old pan of chocolat in my coffee in the morning to get me going. I don't have the willpower to totally eliminate it, but I have dropped 90% of it out of my life, and that was one of the best things I did for everything from my complexion to my constitution to my energy levels. I think sugar is a great evil in this world, too much of it. Humans are full of sugar and it's not helping the world. I don't want to get too serious, but it is responsible for a lot of children's bad behaviour, and then they get punished for it or expected to stop themselves moving, and they're hyped up. I don't like to offer or give advice, but if anyone is suffering out there with problematic children, first and foremost, look at their diet. That's what I'd say, and go easy on punishing them or reprimanding them if it's something that they can't really control, which is all the sugar bumbling around in their body that has no place to go other than these sort of energetic ticks. But I don't like watching it. I can see it. And I think that's why I felt slightly uncomfortable seeing the way Louis was behaving, because although it was natural play for a child, I can sort of sense that unnatural sugar high. And Mike Tyndall confirmed it. So, Vivian Williams, thank you for your comment, even though it was rather disparaging. What I would say, you said that he showed out like a privileged brat. Well, I would disagree with you there, because I see brats of all stripes, from the privileged to the unprivileged. I really don't think that his form of brattishness, as you call it, not I, but playfulness, it's not confined to the privileged, my dear. If Prince Louis is still behaving like that, jumping around, trying to grab attention at the age of 37, like his uncle has, then you might have a point, my dear. Then you might have a point. Wasn't the news heartwarming today? Big William took to the streets incognito. He was spied selling copies of the Big Issue. Now, for viewers abroad, the Big Issue is a very successful magazine. It's been going for a long time, since the 90s. It's actually a pretty good read, or it used to be. I haven't read it for a while, but it's sold by homeless people on the streets of Britain, and it gives them or people who have been long-term unemployed or are facing debts and need some extra money. It's a wonderful scheme, very highly regarded, charitable. Homeless people can become vendors, and they're given 5 free magazines to sell. And they can sell these magazines to the public for £3. So they make £3 per copy. And then after those first 5 free issues, they can buy copies of the magazine for £1.50 and sell it on to make a profit. Well, Prince William went undercover, and by all accounts there was no entourage. If there was security there, it was hidden from view. I'm pretty sure as a future king there must have been, but it was not evident. And he was in Rochester Row in Westminster going about his business, and no one saw him. And then he was spotted by somebody. The press weren't there. He was spotted by Matthew Gardner, a retired police officer from the Met Police, and he shared a photograph on social media because his brother-in-law spotted William thinking that he was some kind of celebrity. And then when Prince William saw them chatting and taking photographs, he crossed the road to them to offer to sell them a magazine. He was wearing this Big Issue uniform with the famous red gilet and baseball cap together with blue shirt and jeans, looking incredibly handsome as he always does. That jaw just seems to get even wider and stronger as time goes by, and that clenching. It's wonderful to see. And when he posted the photographs, Mr. Gardner said, "What an honour to have a private moment with our future king, who was humble and working quietly in the background, helping the most needy." These silent gestures often go unrecognised. The finale to this unique occasion was when Prince William asked my brother-in-law if he wanted to buy the issue, to which he replied, "I have no change." At this point, William produced a mobile card machine. You cannot teach that. Priceless, or should I say princely. And it was indeed very princely and kingly of William to do his duty, raising awareness. Lauren Erickson, as you were discussing the possibility of a terrorist attack during the Jubilee, I have been wondering if there should not have been a bulletproof shield on the balcony, especially in view of the non-royalist movement. And I'm just reading that out because when I saw them on the balcony and when I was imagining it beforehand, I told you I was a little bit panicky that something might happen, because it would have been the opportune moment and the obvious moment for those who are unhinged to do their bidding. I had the same thought, I thought maybe there should be something there protecting them, but that is what sets the monarchy apart. They face the public, just as in the times of the Blitz, when famously the kids were shipped off to somewhere a little more safe, Windsor Castle, and the Queen and the King remained at Buckingham Palace, and Buckingham Palace was bombed, and they went out into the East End and felt that they could look people in the eye. Well, it's the same with monarchy. They are not so lily-livered as Harry, who I can understand he would be worried for his children and their safety, but he perhaps has become a little bit more paranoid. The royal family understand that they would receive some raised eyebrows and criticism from those who already think that they're too cosseted and too protected. So I expect they would be wary of any visuals that would add to that narrative. But in future, as sad as it is to say, while there are more ways and means, technologically speaking, that harm can be created using drones, this kind of thing, all kinds of technical advances. In mini warfare, shall we say, maybe things will have to be reimagined and looked at in the future. It's very sad to talk about. Our darling Catherine was back at work as well, helping young mums sort through books at a children's charity, The Little Village. It's London's largest baby bank network. She looked heavenly in a fitted white jacket and tailored back trousers, simple but chic, with dangly gold earrings and a quilted clutch. There's quite a decent length recording of this visit online if you look, and it's lovely to see her chatting away with the other mums. You can tell that they're rather beguiled with her, and she sorts through all the stuff in the baby bank and is so very authentically interested in their lives. It's very nice to watch. Earlier in the week, William performed some investiture ceremonies on behalf of the Queen, and he seems full of a renewed vigour, determination and energy to carry out his role, inspired by the good work of his grandmother, the Queen. He's been truly inspired over this Jubilee celebration period. I'm absolutely certain of it. He sees his destiny and he is gripping it with the full force of a turgid Big Willy. Now, I do want to read this comment out in the name of fairness because I was criticising the Harkles for their private jetting yesterday. I got a message from Megan Isaacs. I just listened to a person on another channel who does meticulous research. Oh, it's definitely not me then, dear. And she said that Farnborough Airport are carbon neutral. I've checked that website and they say they are. And I had a quick look as well, my dear. I can't be bothered to do meticulous research, so I'm going to take your word for it. But yes, I saw that it provides carbon reducing options for business aircraft. I don't know if the private jet comes under business aircraft, and it aids in procurement of sustainable levels. So yes, in 2018, Farnborough Airport was the first business aviation airport to be awarded carbon neutral status and has reduced emissions by over 70%. So, I'm not the most technical scientific mind in the world, my dear, so you'll have to forgive me if I can't get my entire head around it. But I just wanted to say, props where props are due. If they did choose that airport because it significantly was able to reduce their carbon emissions, then, I have to retract slightly or retreat on what I was saying. But, I'm still not convinced that it was the most ecologically aware mode de transportation. I'm still not entirely convinced that even if it did reduce the carbon emissions, if this private jet was able to run without as much carbon as it would have otherwise, I'm still not entirely convinced that it justifies the journey on a 13-seater plane as opposed to a huge commercial passenger plane with seating for hundreds, where I'm sure they still could have found space and a measure of safety. But, Thank you for pointing that out. Gibraltar continue its gay love affair to the Wessexes. Hello to our Gibraltar fruits out there. I hope you're enjoying their visit. Well, I know you are. And one reason I know you are is because, hello, sailor, and aye, Captain. One of my favourite photographs of Steady Eddie. Doesn't he look an absolute dream? Ship ahoy! Blue skies, blue blood, and a blue wardrobe from Sophie Wessex. Such magic they possess, that rare blend of informality and regal refinement is such a hard thing to get right, such a fine line, but they do it. It doesn't matter how casual and relaxed they are, how friendly, how frolicky, and how at ease they are, how more comfortable they're getting with the public over the years. It doesn't matter, they still retain a sense of regality, don't they? And majesty. Truly royal. Oh dear, what's just popped up? Virginia Giuffre, Prince Andrew's accuser, faces allegations. Rena O makes claims. Oh, well, I'm not going to read this out here, but oh dear. Karma's a witch, isn't it? I thought this gift was absolutely precious, from Downing Street to Her Majesty. It was a box featuring an illustration of the number 10 front door on its lid. It's a gift from the cabinet ministers, a bespoke music box, and it plays Handel's Hallelujah to mark the Jubilee. It's a small thing, hand-painted, and it's finished with a platinum mount. Around the sides are miniature portraits of all 14 of her prime ministers, from Winston Churchill to Boris Johnson. How lovely. And the design mimics the walls of the staircase at number 10, because that's where you'll find all the pictures of all the British Prime Ministers. So it's been done in the same shade of yellow as those walls. I love that kind of whimsy. Well, I'm going to cosy down and treat myself to a coffee. Thanks to those of you who sent a little treat to the tip jar so that I can treat myself to a coffee and pain au chocolat. Most kind of you. And I hope that you enjoy your coffee break, or did enjoy your coffee break, watching me, because I'm told quite often that you skive off of work or take an extra long lunch break so that you can watch one of my broadcasts. Very naughty, but I thoroughly approve. So I'll see you in the next broadcast, my fruits. Take care of yourself, and toodle pip.